Commander Jae-sung Kim stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the screen show the burning cities below. New Busan was dying, and he could do nothing to stop it. The coalition had given him clear orders. Save the alien diplomats and officials. First, the humans could wait. "Sir, we have room for more people," his communications officer said. The young man's voice shook as he spoke. "The transport ships are only half full." Jae-sung clenched his fists. 50,000 humans lived on New Busan. The enemy ships would be here in 2 hours. His ships could save maybe 10,000 people if they filled every transport to the limit. But the coalition wanted him to use most of that space for a few hundred aliens. "Commander Kim," came the voice from his communication system. It was Admiral Vextar, one of the coalition's top military leaders. The alien's voice was cold and mechanical through the translator. "You will follow orders exactly. The diplomatic staff must be evacuated first. Human colonists are secondary priority." Secondary priority? Jae-sung could not believe what he heard. "Sir, there are children down there, families. These people have served the coalition for decades. Human breeding rates are much higher than other species," Vextar replied without emotion. "Losses can be replaced quickly. The diplomatic knowledge and genetic lines of our coalition partners cannot. You have your orders." Jae-sung looked at his crew. All humans, all loyal to the coalition for their entire lives, all watching him to see what he would do. Behind him, Dr. So-young Park worked at her science station. She had been studying coalition technology for years, trying to make their weapons more effective. Her face was pale as she listened to the conversation. "I understand the orders, Admiral," Jae-sung said slowly, "but I cannot follow them." The bridge went silent. Everyone stopped working and stared at him. Refusing a direct order during combat was the worst crime a coalition officer could commit. "What did you say, Commander?" Vextar's voice became dangerous. "I said I cannot follow those orders. I will not leave 50,000 humans to die so we can save a few hundred aliens who think our lives are worth nothing." Jae-sung cut the communication. He turned to his crew. "All ships, emergency evacuation protocol. Save as many humans as possible. Fill every transport, every cargo bay, every space we have. The aliens can take their chances like everyone else." His crew jumped into action. They had been waiting for someone to finally say what they all felt. For 2 hours, Jae-sung's ships worked frantically to save lives. They pulled families from burning buildings, lifted children from schoolyards, and carried wounded from hospitals. When the enemy arrived, Jae-sung's small fleet fought like demons. They had saved 37,000 people, but it was not enough. New Busan fell in flames, and 13,000 humans died because the coalition valued alien lives more than human ones. 3 days later, Jae-sung stood in a coalition military court. The alien judges looked down at him with cold eyes. "Admiral, Vextar gave evidence about his disobedience. The defendant willfully ignored direct orders," Vextar said. "His actions put coalition diplomatic assets at risk and showed clear rebellion against proper authority." "Is this true, Commander Kim?" asked the chief judge, a tall alien with gray skin and 4 arms. "Yes, it is true," Jae-sung replied. "I chose to save human lives instead of alien lives. I chose to treat all people as equally valuable. If that is rebellion, then I am guilty. The court finds you guilty of disobedience, rebellion, and putting coalition interests at risk. You are stripped of all rank and dismissed from service. You will serve 10 years in a labor camp." As they led him away, Jae-sung saw Dr. So-young Park in the crowd. Her eyes were full of tears and anger. She nodded at him once, and he knew she understood. The coalition had shown its true face at last. While Jae-sung went to prison, Dr. So-young Park returned to her laboratory with a heavy heart. She had worked for the coalition for 15 years, believing she was helping to protect all member species. Now she began to look more carefully at her research. What she found made her sick. The weapons she had been told were for fighting external enemies had special features. They were designed to be less effective against coalition member species, but extra deadly against humans. Every piece of technology she had helped create had hidden programming that would make it useless if humans ever tried to use it against their alien allies. They have been planning for this all along, she whispered to herself as she read through classified files. They never trusted us. They always expected us to rebel, so they made sure we could never win if we tried. So Young found records of accidents that had killed human scientists. She realized they were not accidents at all. Any human who learned too much about coalition technology disappeared. She was only alive because her work was too valuable to lose. She started copying files secretly. Evidence of decades of planning against humanity. Biological weapons designed to target human DNA. Military strategies that used human soldiers as living shields. Economic policies that kept human worlds poor and dependent. On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Hyunwoo Lee received the news about New Busan while standing in the main hall of his mining colony. His people had worked this asteroid for HFY 12 years, pulling valuable metals from the rock and sending them to coalition worlds. They had always been told their work was important, that they were valued members of the galactic community. Now Hyunwoo learned the truth. When raiders attacked mining colonies, the coalition only sent help if the colony had strategic value. Human colonies were considered acceptable losses if protecting them cost too much money or resources. Captain, his second-in-command, engineer, Mi Young-jung, approached him with a worried expression. "We are getting reports of raider ships heading this way. I sent a request for help to Coalition Command 2 hours ago. They say no ships are available." Hyunwoo felt something cold settle in his stomach. "No ships available?" "I checked the military databases," Mi Young said quietly. "There are 12 coalition ships within 6 hours of here. They are all protecting alien colonies or escort duty for diplomat ships. The raiders hit 3 days later. Hyunwoo's people fought with mining equipment and hunting rifles against military-grade weapons. They held out for 18 hours before the colony's defenses fell. When it was over, 800 people were dead, including Mi Young and dozens of children. Hyunwoo sat in the ruins of his home, surrounded by the bodies of his friends and family. The coalition rescue ships finally arrived a full day after the fighting ended. They came not to help the survivors, but to secure the mining equipment. "The miners can be replaced," the alien commander told Hyunwoo. "The machinery is much more expensive." That was when something inside Hyunwoo broke. He walked to the colony's communication center, its walls still black with smoke and blood. He activated the emergency broadcast system that would send his message to every human settlement in the sector. "My name is Captain Hyunwoo Lee," he said into the microphone. His voice was calm, but anyone who knew him could hear the rage beneath it. "For 12 years my people have worked for the coalition. We have been loyal, we have been faithful, we have given our sweat, our blood, and our lives for them." He paused, looking at the destruction around him. "Yesterday, raiders attacked our colony. We asked for help. The coalition had ships nearby, but they would not come. They said protecting alien colonies was more important. 800 of my people are dead because the coalition thinks human lives are worthless." Hyunwoo's message spread across human space like wildfire. On Earth, Ambassador Ye-jin Choi tried to manage the diplomatic damage, but it was too late. Humans everywhere were talking about New Busan, about the mining colonies left to die, about the real truth of their place in the coalition. In his prison cell, Jae-sung heard whispers from the guards. The human guards spoke differently now. They still did their jobs, but there was something new in their eyes. Anger, purpose, a growing understanding that they had been fools to trust their alien masters. The galaxy was about to learn that there was nothing more dangerous than a loyal servant who discovers their master's betrayal. The humans had tried to be good coalition citizens for 200 years. They had been rewarded with contempt, exploitation, and death. The breaking point had been reached. Now the real war would begin. Admiral Dong-hyun Kang stood in his private quarters aboard the coalition battleship Harmony's Edge, reading reports that made his blood boil. The official coalition news said that New Busan had been successfully evacuated with minimal losses. They did not mention the 13,000 dead humans. They did not mention Commander Jae-sung Kim, now rotting in a prison camp for trying to save lives. Dong-hyun had served the coalition for 30 years. He had fought their wars, protected their worlds, and believed in their promises of equality and justice. Now he understood that humans were never meant to be equals. They were meant to be tools. A soft knock on his door interrupted his dark thoughts. "Come in," he called. Commander Seokjin Han entered, closing the door carefully behind him. Seokjin ran special operations for Dong Hyun's fleet, and his face showed the same anger that burned in the admiral's chest. "Sir, I need to show you something," Seokjin said. He activated a small device that would block any listening equipment. Dr. So-Young Park on the research station has been sending coded messages to human officers across the fleet. The information she has found... "Sir, you need to see this." Seokjin handed over a data pad. Dong Hyun read in silence, his face growing darker with each line. Weapons designed to fail against coalition species but work perfectly on humans. Biological research using stolen human DNA. Economic reports showing that human worlds were kept poor on purpose to prevent them from building independent military forces. "How long has this been going on?" Dong Hyun asked quietly. "From the beginning, sir. From the very first day humans joined the coalition. They have been planning for our eventual rebellion and making sure we could never win." Dong Hyun set down the data pad and walked to his window. Outside, he could see the other ships in his fleet. 12 human crews and 3 alien-commanded vessels, all part of the 47th Coalition Battle Group. He had always been proud to command such a mixed force. Now he realized the aliens were there to watch him, not work with him. "Seokjin, how many of our human officers have seen this information?" "About 60%, sir. Dr. Park has been very careful, but word is spreading. The crew is getting restless. Yesterday, 3 human engineers were caught trying to access restricted systems on the alien ships." "What did they find?" "Kill switches, sir. Remote controls that can shut down our ship's weapons and engines. Every human vessel in the coalition fleet has them." Dong Hyun turned back to his second-in-command. "And the alien ships?" "No kill switches. Only on human vessels." The admiral walked to his wall safe and pulled out a sealed packet he had hoped never to open. Inside were emergency communication codes that could reach every human military unit in the galaxy. He had been given them years ago and told they were for use only if the coalition itself was under attack. "Sir?" Seokjin asked, seeing the packet. "The coalition is under attack, Commander, by its own stupidity and cruelty. Send a message to all human fleet commanders using these codes. Tell them it is time for a meeting." 1 week later, Dong Hyun's ship arrived at a hidden asteroid base in the Outer Rim. 47 other human commanders were waiting for him, along with Dr. So-Young Park and hundreds of other human officers who had learned the truth about the coalition. The meeting was held in the asteroid's main hangar, with ships from across human space floating in the darkness around them. Dong Hyun looked out at faces he had known for decades. Good people, loyal people, people who had been betrayed by those they trusted most. "Friends," he began, his voice carrying to every ship through the communication system. "We are here because we have learned what the coalition really thinks of us. We are here because our trust has been broken and our people have been murdered." He activated a holographic display showing the data So-Young had collected. "For 200 years we have served faithfully. We have fought their wars, built their cities, and died for their causes. In return, they have prepared for the day when they would need to destroy us." Murmurs of anger rippled through the fleet. These were professional military officers, and they understood exactly what the evidence meant. "The question now," Dong Hyun continued, "is what we do about it. We can report this to Coalition Command and hope they will investigate themselves. We can try to work within the system that has betrayed us. Or..." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "Or we can accept that the coalition has declared war on humanity, and we can finally fight back." Captain Yoonji Seo stood up in her fighter cockpit. She was the best pilot in the 23rd Attack Wing, and her squadron had never lost a battle. "Admiral, what about our oaths? We swore to protect the coalition and all its member species. Did we swear to protect them while they plan our extinction?" Dong Hyun replied. "Did we promise to serve those who see us as disposable tools?" The coalition broke faith with us first. Dr. So Young Park's voice came through the speakers from her research ship. I have been working on something that might help us. The kill switches in our ships, I know how to remove them. More than that, I know how to turn coalition technology against itself. They made their weapons weak against their own species, but they never imagined we would learn how to reverse that programming. Engineer Mi Young-jung spoke from one of the supply vessels. She had survived the attack on Hyunwoo's colony and escaped in a damaged mining ship. I have been modifying ships with equipment salvaged from destroyed colonies. Coalition sensors cannot detect these modifications. We could build a fleet they would never see coming. Over the next several hours, they planned what would become known as the Human Liberation Front. They would not declare open war immediately. Instead, they would begin with sabotage, rescue missions, and carefully targeted strikes against coalition military assets. We need to be smart about this, Dong-hyun explained. The coalition has superior numbers and firepower, but they also have weaknesses. They depend on human workers to maintain their technology. They use human soldiers as guards and support personnel. They trust us because we have always been loyal. That trust will be their downfall, Seok-jin added grimly. The first operation came 3 weeks later. Coalition forces were moving human prisoners from a labor camp on the world of Kepler 442b to a new facility deeper in alien space. The official reason was improved working conditions. The real reason, according to intercepted communications, was to prevent the prisoners from being rescued if rebellion broke out. Dong-hyun's fleet intercepted the prison convoy in deep space. The coalition escort ships were caught completely by surprise. Human vessels that should have been allies suddenly opened fire with weapons that worked far better than they were supposed to. This is Admiral Dong-hyun Kang of the Human Liberation Front, he broadcast to the alien commanders as their ships burned around them. You have held our people as slaves long enough. Today that ends. The battle was over in 12 minutes. Every alien escort ship was destroyed, and 8,000 human prisoners were freed. But more important than the rescue was the message it sent. Humans had coalition technology, coalition training, and coalition ships. Now they also had the will to use them. News of the prison break spread across the galaxy within days. On human worlds, people whispered about the mysterious Liberation Front that had appeared from nowhere to strike at their oppressors. On alien worlds, coalition leaders began to worry about the human workers, soldiers, and technicians who surrounded them every day. Ambassador Ye-jin Choi was called before the Coalition Council to explain how humans had obtained military-grade weapons and ships. She tried to convince them that most humans were still loyal, that only a small group of extremists had turned against the coalition. The council did not believe her. They began restricting human access to sensitive areas, removing human guards from important facilities, and monitoring human communications more closely. But it was too late. Humans were everywhere in the coalition, and they all remembered New Busan. They all knew what had really happened to the mining colonies. Dr. So Young Park established secret laboratories on dozens of human worlds, sharing her research with anyone who would listen. The weapons modifications she had developed were simple enough for any trained engineer to implement. Soon, human security forces across the galaxy were carrying weapons that their alien supervisors did not know had been altered. Mi Young-jung began converting civilian ships into warships, hiding military-grade weapons inside cargo haulers, passenger transports, and mining vessels. The coalition's sensors looked for standard military configurations, not for the improvised but deadly ships that Mi Young's teams were creating. By the end of the year, the Human Liberation Front had grown from a handful of defected ships into a shadow fleet of hundreds of vessels. They struck at coalition supply lines, freed human labor camps, and rescued prisoners. Each victory brought more humans to their cause. The coalition had created their own worst enemy. They had taught humans to fight, given them access to advanced technology, and placed them throughout their military and civilian infrastructure. Now, all of that training and access was being turned against them. In his new flagship, the Soul's Pride, Admiral Dong-hyun Kang looked at reports from across human space. Rebellion was spreading like wildfire. The coalition had pushed humanity too far, and now they would learn what that mistake would cost them. General Inho Nam crouched behind the twisted metal remains of what had once been a guard tower, watching the coalition prison camp through his rifle scope. The facility held 12,000 human prisoners, all captured during the early days of the rebellion or taken from worlds that had tried to declare independence. Behind him, 300 Liberation Front soldiers waited for his signal. They were not the same humans who had served the coalition faithfully for centuries. These were harder people, shaped by betrayal and loss into something the aliens had never expected to face. "General," whispered Captain Sunmi. Oh, his second-in-command. "The diversionary attack has begun on the eastern perimeter. The guards are moving to respond." Inho nodded and raised his hand. Around the camp, his soldiers moved like shadows through the darkness. They had learned to fight the coalition's way, with overwhelming force and no mercy. But they had also learned something the aliens never could: how to fight for something more important than territory or resources. The attack began at exactly midnight. Human soldiers struck from 6 different directions at once, using the coalition's own tactics against them. But where alien forces relied on superior technology, the humans relied on their knowledge of every weakness in coalition equipment and training. "Remember," Inho spoke into his radio as his forces advanced, "the guards are not all our enemies. Some are humans who have not yet awakened. Give them a chance to surrender. The alien commanders get no such chance." The battle was brutal but short. Coalition forces were used to fighting external enemies, not rebellions from within their own ranks. They were not prepared for humans who knew exactly where their communication centers were located, who understood their supply systems, and who had spent years maintaining the very weapons now being used against them. When dawn broke, the prison camp was in human hands. More importantly, 12,000 freed prisoners became 12,000 new recruits for the Liberation Front. Each one carried memories of coalition cruelty and a burning desire for revenge. "This is just the beginning," Inho told the assembled prisoners as coalition medical supplies were distributed to treat the wounded. "Today we free you. Tomorrow we free our worlds. Next year we free our entire species." Across the galaxy, Captain Yunji Seo led her squadron of modified fighters in a very different kind of mission. Her target was not a military base or supply convoy, but a single coalition officer named Commander Zaltak, the alien who had given the orders to abandon New Busan. Zaltak was traveling between worlds in a heavily escorted diplomatic vessel, believing himself safe behind layers of coalition security. He did not know that his human security chief had been feeding information to the Liberation Front for months. "Revenge Squadron, this is Yunji." She spoke into her radio as her 12 fighters approached the diplomatic convoy. "Our target has committed war crimes against humanity. Today we deliver justice." Her fighters were painted matte black and carried no identification markings. They had become symbols of human vengeance, appearing without warning to hunt down coalition officers responsible for atrocities against human civilians. The convoy's escort ships opened fire first, but Yunji's pilots flew with a skill and fury that the coalition had never seen from humans before. These were not the hesitant, rule-following pilots who had served the coalition faithfully. These were warriors who fought for their murdered families and their enslaved species. Commander Zaltak, Yunji broadcast on all frequencies as her fighters closed in on his ship. "You are charged with war crimes against humanity. You ordered the abandonment of 50,000 human civilians to save a few hundred alien diplomats. Your sentence is death." The diplomatic ship's shields failed under concentrated human fire. Yunji personally fired the shots that destroyed the vessel's escape pods, ensuring that Zaltak would share the fate he had decreed for so many humans. "Let this be a message to all coalition commanders," she broadcast as the diplomatic ship exploded. "We know who you are. We know what you have done. We are coming for you." The assassination of Commander Zaltak sent shockwaves through coalition leadership. If their officers were not safe in heavily guarded convoys, where could they be safe? The answer, they were beginning to realize, was nowhere. On the industrial world of New Seoul, Director Young-Soo Bae sat in his small office in the city's waste management facility and smiled at his computer screen. For 15 years, he had been invisible to the coalition administrators who ran the planet. They saw him as just another human janitor, someone who cleaned their buildings and maintained their equipment. They did not know that Young-Soo had been carefully documenting their activities, recording their communications, and building a detailed map of coalition operations across the sector. More importantly, they did not know that he commanded a network of similar invisible humans throughout coalition space. The power plant sabotage is ready, his assistant, a maintenance worker named Kyung-min, reported quietly. The explosions will look like industrial accidents, but they will shut down all power to the military command center for at least 6 hours. Good, Young-Soo replied. What about the communication relay station? Our people are in position. When the power goes out, they will destroy the backup systems. The planet will be cut off from the coalition fleet for at least 12 hours. Young-Soo had learned that the most effective way to hurt the coalition was not through direct military attacks, but through the systematic destruction of the infrastructure that kept their empire running. Humans had built most of that infrastructure, and they knew exactly how to destroy it. Execute the plan, he ordered. Tonight, New Seoul declares independence. Across coalition space, similar operations began simultaneously. On hundreds of worlds, human workers who had been ignored and taken for granted for centuries suddenly revealed their true purpose. Power plants exploded, communication networks failed, transportation systems ground to a halt. Military bases found themselves cut off from supplies and reinforcements. The coalition had depended on human labor for so long that they had forgotten humans could also choose not to labor. Or worse, they could choose to use their skills for destruction instead of construction. Ambassador Ye-jin Choi stood before the Coalition Council, trying to explain how the situation had deteriorated so quickly. The aliens stared at her with a mixture of fear and anger. They had expected isolated rebellions on a few human worlds. They had not expected their entire empire to begin collapsing from within. How many humans are involved in this rebellion? Demanded the council chairman, a tall alien with silver skin and cold black eyes. We estimate that active rebels number in the millions, Ye-jin replied carefully. But the problem is that we cannot identify who is loyal and who is not. The saboteurs look exactly like faithful workers until the moment they strike. Then we will treat all humans as potential rebels, another council member declared. Restrict their access to all sensitive facilities. Remove them from all military and government positions. Increase security measures immediately. Ye-jin tried to object. Council Chairman, that would be impossible. Humans make up 40% of the coalition's workforce. They maintain our ships, build our cities, and serve throughout our military. We cannot simply remove them all without destroying our own infrastructure. Then we will replace them, the chairman said coldly. Begin importing workers from loyal species immediately. But it was already too late for such measures. The human rebellion had spread far beyond what the coalition could control. Every day brought news of new worlds declaring independence, new military units defecting, and new strikes against coalition targets. On Earth itself, the situation was becoming impossible. Human workers had shut down the orbital shipyards, disabled the planetary defense systems, and seized control of most major cities. Coalition forces found themselves surrounded by millions of humans who looked like civilians, but acted like guerrilla fighters. Admiral Dong-hyun Kang watched the reports from his flagship and felt a grim satisfaction. The coalition had spent 2 centuries teaching humans how to maintain their empire. Now those same humans were using that knowledge to tear it apart. Sir, reported his intelligence officer, we are receiving surrender requests from 17 coalition worlds. They are offering to join the Liberation Front rather than face continued sabotage and rebellion. What about their alien populations? Most are requesting safe passage to coalition core worlds. They seem to understand that their time as our rulers is over. Dong-hyun nodded. The rebellion had become something larger than anyone had imagined. It was not just about independence anymore. It was about justice for centuries of oppression and contempt. Send a message to all coalition leaders, he ordered. Tell them that we are willing to discuss terms for their surrender. But make it clear, the age of human servitude is over. We will no longer kneel to species who think our lives are worthless. As his message spread across the galaxy, Dong Hyun looked out at the stars and saw not the coalition territory they had once been, but the future human empire they would become. The aliens had taught humans to be servants. Now they would learn what happened when servants became masters. Fleet Admiral Ji Hoon-yoon stood on the bridge of the massive battleship Terra's Wrath, watching as the largest human fleet ever assembled prepared for battle. 200 warships stretched out before him, each one a testament to human engineering and fury. Some were captured coalition vessels, their alien crews long dead. Others were rebuilt from the ground up using technology stolen from their former masters. All of them carried one message: humanity would no longer be pushed around. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, the coalition's 4th Fleet is moving to intercept us. 67 ships, including their flagship Eternal Dominion. They are demanding our immediate surrender. Ji-hoon smiled coldly. The Eternal Dominion was the same ship that had refused to help defend New Busan. Its commander, Admiral Kexvor, had personally signed the orders that left 50,000 humans to die. Today, that debt would be paid in full. Signal the fleet, Ji-hoon ordered. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you push humanity too far. No surrender, no mercy, no survivors. The space battle that followed would be remembered as the moment the coalition truly understood what they had created. Human ships fought with a viciousness that terrified their enemies. They used ramming attacks, suicide runs, and boarding parties that showed no fear of death. Where coalition forces fought to win territory, humans fought to exterminate their enemies completely. Dr. Tae-hyun Lim watched the battle from his laboratory ship, monitoring the effectiveness of his newest weapons. For months he had been developing tools specifically designed to exploit alien biology. Just as the coalition had once created weapons to target humans, now he returned the favor. The neural disruptor is working perfectly, he reported to Ji-hoon. Coalition crews are experiencing complete system failure. Their coordination is breaking down. And the biological agents? Even better than expected. The Zephyrian crews are showing respiratory failure within minutes of exposure. The Korthak soldiers are suffering complete nervous system shutdown. Tae-hyun felt no guilt about his work. The coalition had taught him that war was about using every advantage available. They had tried to make humans weak and dependent. Now he would show them what humans could accomplish when they fought without restraint. Colonel Sun-mi-oh led her Marines through the corridors of a captured coalition battleship, hunting down the surviving alien crew members. Her soldiers moved, with ruthless efficiency, showing none of the hesitation that had once marked human forces. They had learned that mercy was a luxury they could not afford. Colonel, one of her sergeants reported over the radio, we have found the ship's commander hiding in the medical bay. He is requesting sanctuary under coalition military law. Coalition military law? Sun-mi laughed harshly. Tell him that. Law died with the children of New Busan. Execute him. Her Marines had adopted a simple motto. They showed us none, they received none. Every battle had become a massacre, every victory a complete extermination of enemy forces. The coalition had taught humans that alien lives were more valuable than human ones. Now humans were teaching them the opposite lesson. The psychological effect on coalition forces was devastating. They had never faced an enemy that fought with such complete hatred. Human broadcasts filled coalition communication channels with the screams of dying aliens and the voices of human commanders pronouncing death sentences on entire species. This is Colonel Sun-mi-oh of the Human Liberation Front, she announced after capturing another coalition stronghold. We have taken this station and eliminated all alien personnel. Let this be a warning to all coalition forces. Surrender now, or share their fate. The coalition's member species began to panic. The Zephyrians, who had been enthusiastic supporters of human oppression, suddenly discovered that their homeworld was under attack by a human fleet that showed no interest in taking prisoners. The Korthak Empire, which had profited greatly from human slave labor, found their trade routes cut and their colonies burning. Most terrifying of all was the realization that humans knew everything about their former masters. 2 centuries of forced servitude had taught humans every weakness, every vulnerability, every secret that the Coalition possessed. Now that knowledge was being used to destroy them systematically. On the Coalition capital world of Nexus Prime, emergency sessions of the High Council tried desperately to find a solution to the human problem. But their options were limited. They had built their entire civilization on human labor, and now those same humans were tearing it apart from within. We could negotiate, suggested one council member, an elderly Zephyrian whose homeworld was under siege. Offer them better terms, equal representation, compensation for past injustices. Negotiate? The council chairman's voice was filled with disbelief. Have you heard their broadcasts? They are not interested in better terms. They want revenge. Complete total revenge for every slight, every injustice, every human life lost to our policies. He activated a holographic display showing the latest intelligence reports. They have declared war not just on our governments, but on our entire species. Human forces are systematically hunting down and executing every coalition leader they can find. They are using biological weapons designed to target our specific genetic structures. This is not a rebellion anymore. This is genocide. The council members stared at the evidence in growing horror. They had expected the humans to want independence, perhaps some form of autonomy. They had never imagined that their former servants would seek the complete destruction of their masters. How did we miscalculate so badly? Whispered another council member. We forgot that humans are pack hunters, the chairman replied grimly. We thought their emotional attachments made them weak. We did not realize that those same emotions would make them utterly ruthless when turned against us. As the coalition leadership struggled to comprehend their situation, human forces continued their systematic conquest of alien space. Every victory brought new weapons, new ships, and new intelligence about remaining coalition strongholds. Admiral Ji-Hoon Yoon received daily reports of coalition worlds surrendering without a fight rather than face human retribution. Entire star systems were evacuating their alien populations, leaving behind industrial infrastructure that humans quickly claimed for themselves. Sir, his intelligence officer reported, we are intercepting communications between coalition member species. The Thorian Republic has withdrawn from the coalition and is requesting a separate peace treaty. The Veltar Confederacy is offering to provide us with intelligence about remaining coalition military assets in exchange for safety guarantees. What about the core coalition species? Ji-Hoon asked. They are fragmenting. Each species is trying to save itself. There is no longer any unified resistance. Ji-Hoon nodded with satisfaction. The coalition had held together through shared superiority over humanity. Now that humans were the dominant force, their former oppressors were turning on each other in their desperation to survive. On Earth, General In-ho Nam oversaw the final assault on the coalition's administrative center. The building had once been a symbol of alien authority over humanity. Now it would be a monument to human victory. General, Captain Yoonji Seo reported as her fighters circled overhead. The last coalition officials are requesting safe passage off-planet. They claim they were just following orders and had no personal involvement in anti-human policies. Just following orders, In-ho repeated with cold amusement. The same excuse every oppressor has used throughout history. Tell them their request is denied. Today we send a message that will be remembered for 1,000 years. The assault began at dawn. Human forces, now equipped with the best technology from a dozen species, swept through the coalition center like an unstoppable tide. Every alien official, every collaborator, every symbol of the old order was systematically destroyed. When it was over, In-ho stood in the ruins of what had once been the coalition governor's office. The walls were decorated with paintings showing happy humans working peacefully alongside their alien supervisors. He ordered the paintings burned. Send this message to every remaining coalition holdout, he commanded. The time of human submission is over. The age of human dominance has begun. Any alien who wishes to survive in this new galaxy will do so by our grace and under our rules. As his message spread across human space, a new reality settled over the galaxy. The coalition that had ruled for millennia was dead, destroyed by the very people they had thought too weak and emotional to be a threat. The tables had turned completely. The servants had become the masters, and they had no intention of showing the mercy they had never received. Supreme Commander Dong-Hyun Kang stood before the massive view screen in his command center, watching as the last coalition stronghold finally lowered its shields in surrender. 6 months had passed since the fall of Nexus Prime, and the galaxy was a very different place. The coalition flag no longer flew over any world. In its place, the black and silver banner of the Terran Federation marked humanity's dominance over known space. "Sir," his aide reported, "Admiral Vextar is requesting permission to speak with you directly. He says he has information about remaining coalition assets." Dong-Hyun smiled without humor. Vextar was the same alien who had ordered Jae-Sung Kim to abandon the humans of New Busan. The same alien who had declared human lives expendable and easily replaceable. Now he was begging for an audience with his former subordinate. "Bring him to me," Dong-Hyun ordered. "But keep him in restraints. I want him to understand exactly how much his situation has changed." When Vextar was brought into the command center, the once proud coalition admiral looked broken and desperate. His military uniform was torn and dirty, and his forearms were bound behind his back. He fell to his knees before Dong-Hyun's chair, a position no coalition officer had ever expected to take before a human. "Supreme Commander," Vextar began, his translator making his voice sound weak and pleading, "I come to offer you information about hidden coalition weapons caches. I can provide locations, access codes, everything you need to secure these dangerous materials." "In exchange for what?" Dong-Hyun asked calmly. "Mercy for my people. Safe passage to the outer rim. We ask only to live in peace, away from human space." Dong-Hyun stood and walked slowly around the kneeling alien. "Mercy? You speak to me of mercy? Do you remember what you told me about human lives when New Busan was burning?" Vextar's head dropped lower. I was following coalition policy. I had no choice." "No choice?" Dong-Hyun's voice became dangerous. "You had the same choice I gave you, to treat all lives as valuable, or to reveal yourself as a monster. You chose to be a monster. Now you will face the consequences of that choice." He gestured to his guards. "Take him to the War Crimes Tribunal. Let him explain his lack of choice to the families of the dead." As Vextar was dragged away, Dong-Hyun returned to his chair. The War Crimes Tribunals had been running for months now, with human judges reviewing the evidence of centuries of coalition oppression. The trials were broadcast across the galaxy, ensuring that every surviving alien could see exactly what their former leaders had done and what price they were paying for it. On New Terra, the rebuilt capital world of the human empire, Commander Jae-Sung Kim walked through streets filled with monuments to human victory. He wore the uniform of a Terran Federation admiral now, his rank restored and his actions at New Busan celebrated as the first spark of human liberation. The city around him was a mixture of human architecture and captured alien technology. Towering, spires reached toward the sky, their surfaces covered with screens showing images of human triumph and alien surrender. In the central square, a massive statue depicted human soldiers breaking free from chains, their faces turned toward the stars. Admiral Kim, a young officer, approached him with a datapad. "We have received another request from the Thorian Republic. They are offering to provide technical specifications for their quantum drive systems in exchange for normalized trade relations." Jae-Sung reviewed the offer with interest. The Thorians had been among the first coalition species to abandon their former allies and seek accommodation with the new human government. Unlike the core coalition species, they had recognized early that resistance was futile. Approve the trade agreement, he decided, but include the standard clauses about human oversight and tribute payments. They need to understand that cooperation with humanity comes with obligations. The Thorian Republic, like several other alien governments, had discovered that humans could be generous to those who served them faithfully. Species that had quickly surrendered and provided useful assistance found themselves with protected status under Terran Federation law. They were allowed to govern their own worlds, maintain their cultures, and engage in commerce, all under human supervision and with regular tribute payments to their new overlords. Dr. So-Young Park worked in her new laboratory complex on Earth, surrounded by technology that would have been impossible to imagine during the Coalition era. She had access to the combined scientific knowledge of dozens of species, all of it freely given by governments desperate to prove their usefulness to humanity. The Neural Interface Project is exceeding all expectations, she reported to her research team. We should be able to begin human trials within 6 months. Imagine, direct mental control over any technology system, perfect integration between human consciousness and artificial intelligence. Her assistant, a young Zephyrian scientist named Kelva, nodded eagerly. Kelva was part of the new generation of aliens who had grown up under human rule and genuinely believed in the superiority of their human masters. She had never known the old Coalition, had never thought of humans as inferior. Dr. Park, Kelva said respectfully, I have completed the analysis you requested on Korthak biological vulnerabilities. If you decide to proceed with the enhanced weapon development, we could have prototypes ready within weeks. So-Young considered the proposal. The Korthak Empire had been one of the most resistant Coalition holdouts, fighting a guerrilla war from hidden bases in the Outer Rim. Enhanced biological weapons would end their resistance quickly and permanently. Proceed with the development, she decided, but make sure the weapons are specifically targeted to Korthak physiology. We do not want to accidentally harm any species that has sworn loyalty to the Federation. The Korthak resistance would learn, as so many others had, that defying humanity came with a terrible price. General Inho Nam stood in the Great Hall of what had once been the Coalition High Command building, now converted into the Terran Federation's military headquarters. Around him, holographic displays showed the current status of human control across the galaxy. Green areas indicated fully integrated territories under direct human administration. Yellow zones showed allied species operating under Federation supervision. Red sectors marked the few remaining pockets of resistance. The red zones are shrinking every day, reported Colonel Sunmyo, now in charge of pacification operations. Most remaining holdouts are requesting negotiations rather than facing direct assault. What about the core Coalition worlds? Complete occupation. The surviving populations have been relocated to designated zones where they can be properly supervised. Most are actually grateful for the structure and protection we provide. They have learned that cooperation with humanity offers safety and prosperity. Inho nodded with satisfaction. The transition had been remarkably smooth once. The initial resistance was broken. Aliens who had expected humans to be as cruel as the Coalition had been were surprised to discover that submission was rewarded with fair treatment and opportunities for advancement. Young aliens, especially, adapted quickly to the new reality. They learned human languages, studied human culture, and competed eagerly for positions in the Federation government and military. To them, humans were not conquerors but natural leaders who had brought order and progress to a chaotic galaxy. Captain Yoon-ji Seo flew her fighter through the orbital defenses of Kepler 442b, the world where Captain Hyun-woo Lee's mining colony had been destroyed. The planet was now a major industrial center for the Terran Federation, its vast mineral wealth finally being properly utilized under human management. Below her, massive mining operations extracted resources that were shipped to human worlds across the galaxy. The workers were a mixture of humans and aliens, all laboring together under Federation oversight. It was a very different scene from the small, vulnerable colony that had been abandoned by the Coalition. "This is Fighter Command," her radio crackled. "Captain Seo, you have a priority message from Federation Command." "Go ahead, Command. You are requested to report to New Terra immediately. Supreme Commander Kang has a special assignment for you." Yoon-ji smiled as she set course for the capital. Special assignments from the Supreme Commander usually meant another hunting mission, tracking down Coalition war criminals or resistance leaders who thought they could hide from human justice. She had become the Federation's most effective hunter, tracking down targets across the galaxy with relentless determination. Her kill count included dozens of former coalition officers, resistance leaders, and anyone foolish enough to think they could oppose the new order. On New Terra, Supreme Commander Dong Hyun Kang reviewed the latest intelligence reports in his private office. The galaxy had been quiet for weeks now, with no significant resistance activities and steady progress in integrating former coalition territories. "Sir," his intelligence chief entered with an urgent expression, "we have detected a large alien fleet gathering in the unexplored regions beyond the galactic rim. Long-range sensors suggest it might be a coalition remnant attempting to organize a counterattack." Dong Hyun considered this information carefully. "How large a fleet?" "Perhaps 200 ships, sir. Mostly older coalition designs, but they could still pose a threat to lightly defended Federation worlds."